Bon voyage! I'd like to start this out with a poem by Celia White. Yay! She lived in this bar for most of her life and read her amazing poetry many times here. Now she lives in San Francisco.
And I still eat. See, I don't eat that.
It's called The Invisible Emergency. I'm always scared, aren't you?
Oh, no.
It's hard work, yes. This staying alive and wanting to. The days tighten. It's no use anymore to talk about the stars. I try to make a simple sense of these pages, but maybe nothing I can say is enough. Blood is not enough. Love is not enough. I gasp toward comprehension like a fish for water. It is too clumsy to say this, but true. That desperate, that dry. I move into the wet world with my unwieldy vision, my noise, my unquiet heart. It is the hardest thing I've ever done. But, do you understand this? It was the song of me, always. It is impossible to turn away. I have only this. I swear by it, smear myself with it. I feel like I am telling you my nightmares. Sometimes it is all I can ask, to keep trembling. The truth doesn't help. I'm tormented by livid worry for the world and myself in it, moneyless and artlessly starving. I try to tell myself everyone's life is like this, but no one shows me their hands. I hide in my body. This is my theater, my poorly lit life, the huge, tripping solitude of my 4 rattling rooms. I am alone again, dangerously liberated, bloodied and certain, and I whistle when the wind blows through me. My hands are a bouquet of prayers. I don't know what to ask for anymore. Simultaneity, sympathy, small word, great remembering. I put everything in my mouth at the same moment and briefly feel whole. All the fragile, creaky little bones singing together, the hearts clench and swell, the sore sheath of my skin, my mercenary tears. These hands wilt, these eyes are spent, my mind excited, heart nervous, electricity branches through my body. God's come, inspiration. Oh, the flooded moment again. The instant of gutted clarity, the invisible emergency, the air fucking my lungs. I have to tell this to someone and pretend it is not prophecy. The dancers enter, crazy, beautiful. I have seen my life on fire, my own face blazing. I know my bones won't leave. I will come out clean. Celia White. It's the 3-legged Karl Marx stool over here. This is going to be a long rant. It's called Trainspotting, the musical.
The girls know how to do that. They dip it in and scoop it out.
Hello.
The girls take the plate and scoop
Is he
it out.
talking about ice cream?
Girls know how to do it. Yeah, scoop.
Here's the scoop. Oh, isn't it dandy to prance about in our cool clothes and cool hair and down to the pool hall where we can look even cooler? And this is all, of course, in direct correlation to being heroin addicts. Otherwise, our lives wouldn't be nearly as fulfilling, and we wouldn't appear nearly as sexy or entertaining to you, our predominantly white middle-class viewers, who glorify the misery of actual heroin addicts without knowingly ever having met any, since an actual junkie might not look like a Calvin Klein model, and without possessing even the quarter of a testicle it would take to try it and find out for yourselves once and for all what it's like to have all of your cells abandon you to your pitiful, repetitive, irrelevant thoughts for a few hours. So let us act out your fantasy for you and demonstrate how an overdose experience is a winsome toilet tissue ad as our hero floats down through the rug. And of course, withdrawal has always been the afternoon jaunt through a toilet tank, which Pynchon came up with first as the satire it was meant to be. And Christ, it doesn't even come with a harmonica or Malcolm X this time. But that might confuse the viewer, especially the actual vomiting vomiting, and death panic at precisely 3:52 a.m. every day for 2 months, and the neurotic habits that form during the daylight hours in the vain hope of avoiding the inevitable attack. And no one wants to play pool with you then, and your life is this wretched only because you survived the overdose, where, if you had a brain at the time, you knew it before it even hit, and you still wanted more anyway, and you sat petrified and repulsed by your impatience, and then you turned blue. But you must have been imagining it all, because really people try to kill themselves to feel like they're sinking into a rug. It's obvious, and everyone should learn about these cold hard facts by paying $7 in 2 hours to see a film about people stupid enough to die in order to appear like they're doing something the rest of us are too spineless to do. But if we found out that heroin addicts aren't always stupid people, and they might do things for their own reasons, then we would lose interest in films about stupid people who deserve to die, which simply might mean that everyone secretly wishes they can genuinely deserve death. And I think we should go out for lattes after the show and discuss the dark side. Oh, very small print as well.
I need an interpreter.
This is about dancing, dance clubs. The synopsis, dance clubs. The light in the dance club gave a sensual and unyielding command. It is always twilight here, and you who are caught will never know it. She felt squashed among dancing shades, sandwiched with the dead who had no idea they had died and were playing motion without drawing breath. Didn't she too feel suddenly slender, as if her innards and skin were drying, shrinking, preserved forever under the miles of sand that blotted out the mortar and pestle of music, that stifled the priests chanting while the brain was siphoned out through the nose and the skull stuffed with sawdust and myrrh? I'd like to try some found poetry. This is the, before the Hilton went out of business in Buffalo. I don't think it can go out of business anywhere except in Buffalo. It went out of business, or it was sold before it went out of business, to a lovely company. This was the Buffalo Hilton handbook that all the employees received before they sold the franchise. Okay. Use smiling phrases. Please and thank you are phrases which smile all by themselves when said. There's a wonderful assortment of words which, when pleasantly spoken, make people want to do what you want them to do. And "It's been my pleasure" is the proper reply when a guest thanks you, because his thanks mean you're probably doing a fine job. I just recently moved out of the west side, the really west side of Buffalo.
For about 50 years.
So I have a strange little city thing.
She grew up on the show.
It's kind of a synopsis of
Elisa Valero.
something. I keep using the word synopsis. I don't know what's going on with that. Here's a little bit of New York City. I'm going to segue into the west side of Buffalo. The fanatical goodness and the fanatical evil can cancel each other into the gray hum. NYC. Limbs are severed in the quiet, and it's still so quiet. The frozen is thawed, and it rots in stillness. The soft freezes, and a faint click of a faceted expansion. Handle me like I'm injured. Handle me like I'm injured, my friend. This is a neighborhood full of strange metabolisms. This is a neighborhood full of cars with homemade lawnmower engines and locked brakes and emaciated prostitutes falling out of them as they squeal around the corners. This is the open-air asylum, where everyone pulls together just long enough to dial 911, and then the shirtless Uncle Tom scurries up to the cops and tells them all about it. And no one remembers because time is measured in piss-colored ounces, and the last drop is gone. And when day comes, no one notices, and when night comes, no one notices. And it's humid around the concrete and behind the grocery chain store and on the abandoned stoop, and humidity breeds the stench of life. But did you notice that everything works better only when it's dry? Metal doesn't rust then. Electricity conducts more efficiently. Office paper stays crisp. Nothing grows through the pavement. The last drop is gone, and the desert is coming. Sand, wind, and the arcing wire. Time lapse of the sun rising, setting, and rising again on the same thing. I'm in the dream. Two of me have been out there, far away. Now I am one of the two, here, which is now there, far away. We all take turns losing it, and then returning, scrabbling our way on hands and knees maybe a micron further in our lives. Did I remember to do this? Did I remember to do that? Did I remember everything? Did I remember where I put the list of things to remember? If I write it with every step, along every wall I pass, will I remember? Drawn to the madness with terrible optimism. Something pissy. Pissy. Yeah. Pissy. Yeah. I don't know. I guess that's just the way things go. Okay, this is walking to and from work experience.
Yeah.
Halfway across Terrace, which is a 3-lane, one-way highway, I noticed a car rip out of its parking space 50 meters or so from me and race at alarming speed right at me. There were no other cars anywhere, yet this driver felt it necessary to drive within 2 feet of me instead of entering another lane. As I ran like a fucking idiot in the pouring rain to reach the curb and not get run over. I suppose my massive bulk was just too large an obstacle for this moron to maneuver around. As the car passed within a few inches of my foot, the woman driving appeared to be slightly confused as to why I had not poofed out of existence to make way for her unbelievably important carcass. Hey lady, why don't I drive a car right at you as you step off the curb, and you'll see just how precious you really are. Or better yet, why don't I ram a 4x4 right through your fucking home in the middle of the night, into your bedroom, and drive the thing right up your ass, with a row of KC lights to illuminate my journey through your lower intestinal tract. How does that sound? Later, I approached a group of high school kids crowded together on the sidewalk, waiting for their buses to the suburbs. They did not respond in any way to "excuse me" as I tried to pass, so I had to physically shove these little shits aside in order to continue down the sidewalk to a chorus of squalling. There is a large group of yuppie parents somewhere that needs to be herded into a pen and slaughtered for breeding such self-absorbed, spoiled pieces of excrement. These whiny robots are just more status knickknacks to add to the mounting suburban arms race. Look what I've got now to go with the house. It walks, it talks, it's on the honor roll. Okay, let's move away from the art list for a few minutes. Since it's still roasting hot outside, I'll read a summer poem, a prose thing. It's called Summer Leaf Beetle. A leaf in among the others, under folds upon folds of tender leather it lies smothered. From this far away, it cannot be sensed as a singularity. Only humid perfume beaded in the nostrils, air as slippery as mercury. Dissonant sine waves composed by cicadas and neon and transformer wires disorient the compass, bringing the conversations back to the same fatigued phrase. How interesting.
He ordered the ticket, he said he paid for it.
How interesting.
Now you got no complaints.
Where the magnet is too strong and speech is dragged from memory back to the axis.
I don't want to sit by myself.
The beginning lies in the end, and the forgetting becomes the impetus to start. Somewhere along the lines of latitude and longitude, along X and Y, it appears. How interesting. Along the lines, in the crosshairs of a seed case, pithy with X, with Y, repetition to burst as stem, then leaf. How interesting. The beetle keeps trying in vain for a successful takeoff, crisply flipping up its wing casing like a determined 19th century flying machine inventor and sputtering away, scraping its poor little ass segment along the porch floor to collapse, exhausted, a few inches away. The extravagance of this world is stupefying.
I went to football games with him last year. I went to
Here. How long are these, like half-hour things? Half-hour, Pam?
Yeah. Keep going.
Where's our other...
Yeah, where's the poor girl?
You know what I'm talking about? That's not going to happen. I
Around
will eat
8.
the ticket.
Who is the other immoral girl?
Michelle Weber.
The reason for that is I'm going to have a good time.
Yeah, Michelle Weber.
That crazy girl gets some tickets. It's all for nothing.
This is from the St. Mark's Poetry Marathon on the 1st of January of this year. It's a wonderful 12-hour extravaganza. Many poets, they read for 2 minutes each, theoretically anyway, and it goes on from morning to evening. Spine rising, bunching at brainstem as unveiling is in progress. The same type everyone talks about, the masks removed, but seen from every angle, not just from behind the plaster and into the mirror that's into another. I do not wish the explosion, just the passing through into the next universal stress on my hull. More horrific, of course. So let my flaws be God's anchor at this moment of perfection, because you can't scorch a star, and there are too many sparks flying off to find out. Worse than a brush with death is a brush with me. lost the other thing I was going to know. It's very hard to see, though. That's why. Hard to see, hard to concentrate. Oh, something about the Jerry Springer show. I don't think I'm going to hear about that, though. No. Oh, well.
Jerry Springer, Jerry Springer, Jerry Springer.
No. Jerry! That's what I don't want to know. No, Oh, here it is. I had the page turned over and it just opened. That's nice. A trend in the chaos. She was hoping she would get it out of me. Kisses on the neck, touching my eyebrows, searching between them, but nothing written there, and nothing dancing like the flame to tambourine. She ripped my shirt a little. I could understand this. She wanted me to delve, to douse, to decipher, and I did try. I found things, information, that might be interesting, but I unshelved, secrets, which had been set aside for later, several eons ago, but she wasn't having it. In desperation, she whipped me. She pulled my hair. I gave what I thought was a concise explanation of why Scheherazade told her own story as a story. I even remembered where Chong Su went after he passed through the gates of the wall, and what he wrote on leaves afterward. But this was unsuccessful. Intent or purpose? She flailed harder, and I saw the idea, the pattern in randomness. She wanted the canon in incoherence. She sliced my skin, and I think we were both relieved to find nothing written on the underside of the epidermis, just to prove there was no order to these things. I forgot to mention the chunky scratch pad.
I know.
The whole reason, okay. The angry thing was out of a chunky scratch pad, the CVS chunky scratch pad.
Chunky scratch pad.
This is called The Copper Turns Blue. This is called My Tongue is Cleaving to the Roof of My Mouth. My mouth is so dry. The copper turns blue, like a bone in the woods, like the clammy skin of deities, like my own private rivers in relief on my hands. I am watching the transformation. And the pulse of this witness is in threes, matching the cloud speed, thunder for thunder, across the sky. I know dark drummers. I know light drummers. They cry with every blow, whose skin is stretched on this snare. I am watching their transformations. They will find between collisions their fields, whistling with static, their doors that weep to the touch, their bristling animal reflections, the blue before the day, after the day, where everything happens. It's a discovery that can make you stupid with rage, or just mad. I think I might have screamed. I think I'm still screaming. Someone found the ad. In it, I'm all teeth and tiered skin. He found his too. What are we selling? I am watching from my rock in the water, where my scarlet scales are drying. I am watching from the arc of tortured light dragged home to singularity. I am watching from a stranger's floor in dark, cold vomit. I am watching from the noose. I am watching from under the hood. I am watching from a twilight road that is endless but ends anyway. I am watching From the atomic pupil, I enter past DNA, thinning air, and finally vacuum. I am watching a transformation. There's this place in Syracuse. You've probably heard this, most of you heard the story about this already. There's a street in Syracuse that's kind of like the hip place to go. It's called Westcott Street. And there's this wacky cafe, bakery thing on Westcott. And it was just called the Westcott Bakery, even though they don't bake anything there. And they renamed it the Chatterbox Cafe because people would go in there and sit there for hours and hours and hours with one cup of coffee and talk. But some of the conversations I made, I don't think they realized how aptly named it was, because there are conversations that I overheard in this place that I've never heard before or since. I really thought maybe there was something wrong with me, that I was just hearing this in my head. But so I wrote a lot of them down, because I had to have proof, I guess, written down proof. So this is one of them. It's called Conversations from the Chatterbox Cafe. Carpenter speaks on the Bible. What do you mean there were no miracles in the Bible? There were plenty of miracles in the Bible. Just stop it, Ed. You keep bringing up things that I'm not talking about. I'd say, gee, isn't this a lovely bagel? And you'd reply with something about Jesus Christ. I don't give a fucking damn about Jesus Christ, Ed. What do you mean there were no miracles? Just look at the Old Testament, with the angels coming down to save so-and-so. The Old Testament is just wallpapered with miracles, Ed, and none of them can be proven. I wish every church would just blow up. I hate religion. Now just stop it, Ed. Just to let you know, Ed never said a word during that whole conversation. He just sat there. One more and then I'm done. You got it. It's no lie. I speak only the truth.
And everybody's sitting around me in a circle.
Come, my children, and hear the truth. It's called All the Insects. With all the insects that die between the window and the sill, surely my house must be haunted. But I am just a tourist, and it seems that I'll never quite get to know the natives. Somewhere between birth and death, I could put on espadrilles and that Hawaiian print that I've been saving. And maybe then I will find myself in the eaves, or between the walls, or hanging from a pipe in the cellar. That's it. Bye. I guess Pamela Potty Mouth Swartz is on next.